What's happening?
Josh, can you take us through the process this week? Obviously, with Baker hurt, you're going to give Teddy, I would think, a lion's share of reps. Just how does that work in terms of game planning? And I guess the decision won't be made till later in the week, right?
Right. Teddy definitely will take more of the reps. The positive to any week is that they're all in there together for the design of the plays and the installation of it and the walkthrough reps. But for Teddy to be able to get those reps in the walkthrough and then be able to practice tomorrow really helps out anybody who is in that position that hasn't really done it before or in recent history, to be able to get those reps to feel good about the game plan. And then I'd say on the side of it, on who plays, there are things you got to adjust for each guy, like we've done for other positions, that it could be this call or that call that you got to decide later in the week, but he's in a good spot with it.
How has Baker been playing prior to that injury? You obviously have faced some really good teams over the last couple of weeks coming out of the bye week, but how would you assess his play compared to like earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think that once we came off the bye week and he got healthier, I thought he played a pretty good game against New England. There were some definite things that we want back in terms of the production. That's really for the whole offensive unit. And I think going into the Buffalo game and the importance we had placed on the run and being able to run it there, I thought he wants the interception back, of course, but I thought he played well in that game. I think there was other opportunities where I could have put him in a better place to push the ball down the field. But at the end of the day, I think he got healthier from the bye week and was in a good spot. And then that game just kind of got away from us a little bit last week in terms of him getting injured. But I think he's still playing at a high level.
How pleased are you with the run game, Josh, the last 2-3 weeks? And it can only help if Bucky comes back. For
sure. Starting that New England game, it was good. It was good to be able to go run for over 100 on those guys, and then to take it on the road in Buffalo. And I think the question was asked in here in terms of what Luke brings to the table and getting him back out there. You think we see some of that production as well, and then being able to do that again last week, even into the second half, where we were down a bunch of points, but guys were still grinding it out, straining, which we talk about all the time. And then to your point about Buck, anytime you can get a starter back, especially a player of Bucky's caliber, and the way he prepares and the way he loves the game and he's around his teammates, that should always elevate you, a lot like when Luke got back. So I know Buck's in a good spot, and we definitely plan for the run game production to continue as we move forward.
Can you understand sort of what he went through? I guess the word is that he was being hurt. He's a guy that had never really been injured to that degree. But to have a young player like that kind of struggle with you're not part of the team necessarily. You're doing the rehab. How difficult can that be for some players in this league when you're not out there?
I think it's for anybody, especially when you're away from it and you do get banged up. But I think that's the ultimate portion of the team, is that the amount of resources we have here and the things we do, whether it's Bucky or anybody else, on being able to help those guys as much as possible and rehab it and get them back to where they need to be, because ultimately they want to go out there and compete and have fun and help the team. So it's good to see him in a good spot.
How do you incorporate him back into the flow and still continue to use Rashad and Tucker the way they've been getting some carries and getting some success?
I think it's a lot like we did with Chris, where you can't expect the guy who hasn't played in numerous weeks to go out there and get a normal lion's share of the carries. Or for Chris, I think Chris played 25, 26 snaps. So to be able to bring them along, allow them to get their confidence back up, allow them to build their play strength back up, and then as well as the scheme where you're not overloading them with too many this kind of run, that kind of pass, things like that. But trying to find that balance between using them and knowing they're going to help us, but just thinking they're going to go play 60 snaps off the rip, I think would be a disservice to those guys.
Was it tough to try to maintain balance, Josh, when you looked at the scoreboard at certain points last week, and you did a pretty good job of sticking with the run game? Was that difficult for you?
It does become an element of you want to compete and you want to come back and you want to be able to still win the game. But to your point, when it gets to a certain point, you have to look at it. That's a very formidable front, like we talked about going into the game, where it's not something where you need to drop back and throw it every time, because they are really good. And when they know you're going to throw it and they can pin your ears back, that's when teams like that are the most dangerous. But that's what we talked to these guys about this morning, was even being down, being able to put a couple drives together and run it and be able to move the ball on the field. And ultimately we didn't get points, but you got to play that game with, let's try to score. We still need to run it. Can we take some of the rush off by throwing some screens? That way they just can't tee off on the tackles and guards and center. But it's definitely a delicate balance.
What's the biggest concern with is Arizona Cardinals defense when you look at it on film?
Yeah, I would say this on their record, it is not indicative of the kind of performance they show on tape. So when you see that, you see a lot of games that have been under 7 points, and they didn't come out on the right end of it on their side of it, but you see a bunch of ability. I think with what Coach Rollis does with this scheme, it's a very unique scheme in how they deploy different personnel groupings. They have a handful that they can use versus multiple personnel groupings on our end. And they have guys that are playing in different spots based on how they deploy that unit. So you see a little bit of positionless players. But when it comes to the player side of it, the fact that Calais Campbell is still playing at the level that he's playing at is hats off to him. Sweat does a really good job coming off the edge. I think he has 9 sacks, 10 sacks, something along those lines. And then you see these rookies that are playing with on the perimeter. These guys got some ball production. These guys turn the ball over really well. And then I don't mention him last, but the one that makes it go is Buddha. And he is flying around. He's still playing at a very high level, whether he's playing backer, safety. He runs to the ball, and these guys play hard.
When it comes to red zone, you had some guys step up there, like Tash Johnson's been doing well in that area, and then there's also been some struggles kind of as well on the flip side. What have you seen from your red zone work in the past 2 games in the team, and what are some things you like about it maybe, and what are some things you're looking to improve as the season goes on?
Yeah, the one drive where he got it really on back-to-back plays on the end around, and then he got it on the next one, which was a really good route by him, being able to separate. But at the end of the day, those are what you want out of those drives, where you're putting together a drive, you're keeping the pressure on them, mixing the play calls, trying to keep those guys off balance, and ultimately get 7 and not 3. And I'd say for the rest of the game, I think we had 2 other drives that ended in 4th downs down there in the middle of the red zone or the high red zone, where we're going for it on 4th down, trying to catch up, and you want to be able to convert those. I think there has been improvement, but there still needs to be better execution on that side of it. And I think I can design some better things to be able to score from those depths as well.
Did you think about trying a 60-yard field goal, Josh, on the first drive before punting?
It was right in that area where,
43.
yeah. I think after what was it, Philly? The one after Philly, I think anything's possible. But it was right there in that gray area whether or not you need to punt it or kick it.
So Sunday morning, Baker Mayfield wakes up. You know the adrenaline's going to be pumping. You know he's a gamer, all that, right? What's the discussion? Because you've got Teddy ready. That's why he's here. And yet you obviously want your best guys out there. So how is that decision made, I guess, essentially?
It comes down to the week of preparation and where they're at. We would never want to put someone out there and put them in harm's way if they can't operate and play the game how they should play the game. And if we feel like they're not able to do that, then it's now Teddy's job, and Teddy goes out there and operates, and we have the confidence in him. But at the end of the day, just having those days from here until Sunday to see how this thing progresses and just make sure we save Bake from Bake, because you guys see how he plays. And when he's out there, he's going to give it his all, and there won't be any back down, and we got to make sure that that's in the right spot before we put him out there.
You were with Teddy the last time he started a National Football League game in
Yeah.
Miami. He's not Baker Mayfield from a personality standpoint, but he does bring his own sort of confidence. Describe sort of his leadership and what's unique to Teddy when he plays in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely a different demeanor. I wouldn't say, of course, how they conduct themselves is similar, but there's a command in the way that they speak to people that might be different. But when they speak and they adjust things, just like what Bake does in walkthroughs, we just had that where Teddy does it in a different form or fashion, but it's with the same intent of getting all 11 on the same page, talking to the young receivers, young backs, and it's definitely done in a different way, in a different leadership style, but I think both are effective.
In the game, you lose Baker on Sunday, you had Teddy out there. Can you say who the emergency quarterback, if you only dress 2, who's next in line if you lost Teddy out there?
Yeah, that is something that I don't want to give away that. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that or not. There is a plan in place. It was unfortunately thought about during the game, quite naturally, but I don't want to give away what that is, but it's not a good feeling, but there is a plan in place.
Josh, just how difficult, and I know no excuses are going to be made for you or anybody on that side, but just how difficult has it been since it feels like day one that you've gotten this job? They're moving pieces every week. It just feels like when you fill one hole, another hole opens up, and hey, now we got this, and now we got a new quarterback here. Just what are the difficulties in making a game plan week by week where every week the continuity just isn't there?
Yeah, I think everybody goes through challenges in the NFL no matter what it is. I know we've had our fair share for sure. And I've talked a little bit about it in here. It is a challenge, but it is something that I do find enjoyment in. I think the offensive staff finds enjoyment in it as well because of the fact that these guys that are playing and stepping up, it's their opportunity to go prove themselves and prove they belong and prove they can make plays. So the combination of both of those and us being able to do that on a week-to-week basis and put our guys in a position to play, because at the end of the day, we feel like every game we're going into the rest of the season and the ones we've played is that we have more than enough ability to beat the team we're playing, and it's on us to put these guys in a position to go make plays.
How has Devin Culp's development been this year? You know, he was able to help you guys a little bit with some big plays at the tight end position down the stretch when Cade was out, and I know he's third on the depth chart, but has his development stalled, or what would you say about his?
He's doing a good job. I would say, I know you guys are not at practice, but he still gets a bunch of the practice reps, and he's coming along. I think Coach Peel's done a really nice job with him on getting him more and more up to date with some of the things that we do in the run game as well as the pass game, and still bringing him along being a second-year guy. So I think that he's in a good spot with that, even though you don't see it on the field just because he's not playing as much. But we do see improvement really on a week-to-week basis with him, and I think his time will come. I think we talked about it a little bit with Tuck and when Bucky went out, where these guys would get a chance to step up. Not that you want an injury for someone else, but I think he's in a good spot, and his time will come.
Josh, what's it like for you? You're getting on a plane for a 5-hour return home after that game, and you got the stat sheet in front of you, and you look at it, and it says 70 passing yards for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's that feel like for you?
It's not a good feeling because we didn't win. It's not a good feeling because we didn't score more than the opponent. But looking at the stat sheet, whether it be in the run game, if that wasn't there, or the pass game, I think ultimately it's about the production in terms of scoring points. So if it meant needing to rush for more yards and not throw it for that many and we still won, we'd be in a good spot, but that's definitely not where it needs to be. We got to have better execution of it. I got to call it at the better times, have some better designs. But to win in this league, and we talk about it, you need to be able to be balanced, and you can't expect to win many games throwing for under 100 yards.
Also, do you say to yourself, Rams got a heck of a defense, give them some credit?
Oh, and it's hats off to them for sure. We knew it going into the game in terms of how formidable their front was, and we don't want to take anything away from them because they played a hell of a game and had a good plan. But there's still things that I can do to help us score more points and protect it better and ultimately move down the field. But it's a really good unit. They're not second, or maybe I don't know if they're first now, but they're not first or second in the league in scoring for no reason.
Not many seventh-round picks. Not many seventh-round picks come into this league and have 5 touchdowns and still got 6 games or so to play. What is it about Tez that's made himself available in those areas of the field?
He's preparing the right way. His snap count and his volume on how much he can handle, I think, has gone up. He has shown the ability, especially on that play that we scored on. It wasn't man coverage, but essentially to his side it was man coverage. He's shown the ability to beat man coverage, and his play speed, he just loves being out there. You guys see him bouncing around. It's like he doesn't even touch the earth even in these walkthroughs. He just kind of pounces around everywhere and loves to play, loves to compete. And he's in a good spot. It was good to see his he wasn't first in that progression. I mean, we had to go all the way across the board, and he was back over there in the spot we needed him to be. So he's playing well.
Maybe these are fluke plays that will never happen again. But Cade Otton has had the ball kind of ripped out of his hands twice by defensive backs for interceptions. These gloves these days, they're as tacky as can be. Is that a situation where, as a coach, you say, Cade, I know you maybe have a preference for not having gloves, but like most people wear gloves? Is that a conversation?
When it comes to that side of it, I would never tell someone really how to dress or how they should prepare for game day. I think part of it is just catching it, being quick to the tuck. That way you're not worrying about that side of it. But at the end of the day, he hasn't worn gloves for a while. I know it's been a few years, and I've got all the confidence in the world with him and getting the ball and continue that moving forward. So however he wants to dress on game day, really, in my opinion, is up to him.
Josh, just with, I know the production maybe hasn't been there since what it was at the beginning of the season with the Mecca, but can you maybe explain just how challenging it is for a rookie to kind of shift his role mid-season and what you're asking him to do now versus what it was before Mike went out, and just how he's been handling all that?
I think it's incredibly difficult for most people to do it. I think because of the way he's built and he's wired, even I take it for granted at sometimes how easy it is for him to be able to play 3 different positions and be able to have the route conversions and be able to go in there and play different spots. So it's really a testament to him that he's able to do it, because it's not easy to go from being, not that he was ever the second option, but you're dealing with a guy in Mike Evans who's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and now you're kind of shifting into that role. So he's had his production for the most part has stayed up. I know it's been asked in here at times on he's getting doubled now and this and that, and I think he's done a good job with that too. But he continues to prepare the same way, whether he had a big game or a game that we try to give him the ball more.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Happy Thanksgiving.